One thing is that I was not, I was going to see, I was trying to. Worst comes to worst, we'll just read from the computer. Huh? Just check.
I can't see that.
Okay. That makes three of us.
I'm going for eye exam next week. Yeah. Well, I definitely review it. But my eyes change so much.
There was something I need to.
And
Is what?
kids.
Yeah.
Because I'm like,
Oh, I know. Oh, we can do that.
thank you. There's no way. Yeah.
Okay, let's put them on.
I know, we do the same thing.
Oh,
Oh, I'm doing quiet. Does anybody know the password for Wi-Fi?
Yeah, it's Temple Sinai with a capital T and a capital S and then ROSH-ESTHER.
Oh.
Everyone else knows. Mine's not at all.
Yeah, somebody, they were having trouble with it, it started to come back a little bit, but not so strong. Right.
Mine's out.
But I was fine with it. Yeah, it is, because otherwise.
Yeah.
With her towers.
And then,
I think sign then capital R, capital O, capital C. Sure. You can also access this white.
unable to.
There's one over here.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, the S is also capital.
Okay.
We're going after this in tomorrow. This is tomorrow at 10:15. Then here we go. J.
No.
Incorrect.
What?
That's what it's telling me. Well, that's ridiculous.
Where does it say that though? It's not saying that to me. In it. It doesn't.
Now I did it right this time, and it doesn't work. Oh, it worked.
All right. Have a few more minutes. Miracles have been happening. The printer machine wasn't working, but then it did.
Uh-huh.
So incredible. I think a couple more people are making their way, so we'll wait our 3 minutes.
How is Israel?
It was great, all in all.
Wonderful to see the family.
Yeah. Please pass it around. The main goal was to see my children, and I did see them.
Wow.
Yeah, they're good. My daughter is actually in Sri Lanka,
Oh.
swimming with turtles,
Oh.
surfing. So.
But you
But
got,
unfortunately, I couldn't go to Sri Lanka.
you got to see her before she went.
Yeah. I was in Israel. I went to a hot water spring that has a lot of sulfur and magnesium, and it's just really by the border of Israel and Jordan. So like there's this big border fence like right here, and right here there's these ruins, and it's all covered with graffiti, like really colorful graffiti, and the water is like almost 100 Fahrenheit. And all those hippies and Orthodox people and people are just swimming in that hot thermal experience that smells like sulfur. And I was there too, and I was just listening to, and all the conversation is spiritual.
Yeah.
Like this ultra-Orthodox guy is asking a man who has many tattoos about the meaning of the tattoos, and they're just talking about it. Like, why do you have a Star of David and a cross and a crescent and a Buddhist sign on your body? What does that mean? And everybody just jibber jabber. It's just kind of nice.
Did you take one for
What about What are you looking for?
Did you make a fire in your house?
I didn't make a fire in my house. Why would I want to do that?
Well, because the last time you can't,
Oh,
and you said one of the things you were looking forward to
huh?
when you got to your house at Easter was to make a nice fire.
Oh, well, I couldn't make a fire in my own house because but I did, there was a fire, but not in my house. Yeah.
You gotta go around with the papers.
One more time? Okay, all right. Cause, yeah. I did rent my own Airbnb unit though. Which for myself, well, not for myself, for the people who are, they're operating the whole, they live upstairs. And they're the Airbnb downstairs that we used to do, and now, we were staying in it, so we're kind of funny.
What did you do?
What's that?
What was it that you?
I rented my own Airbnb unit for myself, but via proxy.
So you own the unit, but you have it on.
It's like the bottom floor of the house. Okay, I see that we're in good attendance today, and some people that I have never seen you before.
I know, man.
Oh, even on Zoom, that's incredible. That's incredible. Who's in the waiting room? Let's see. Oh, admit.
Susan.
Oh, Fred. Yeah, Fred we should let. We like Fred. Yeah. Fred, if it were somewhere else, we wouldn't let them, but you we like, so we're gonna let you. Yeah. So maybe we should also share screen with Fred. Poor Fred. All right. Oh, and Paul. Some of my favorite people are on Zoom. All right, folks. So it's great to see all of you here. I know that a 3-week break in a mini-semester of 3 sessions max is not ideal. Yes.
The gentleman needs a paper.
Okay, well, then take the paper. I'm gonna nominate somebody here in charge of the papers. That's Monday's class. Yeah, so here's some extras. There's one extra. Share it amongst yourselves. And it's also the same, you can also see it on the screen. So. All right, so folks, I'm glad that you're here. So this a 3-week gap between 3 weeks and 3 weeks of study is maybe not the best methodology, but also since the topics that we are discussing are eternal, what's 3 weeks between friends, right? So what we've been doing here, a reminder to those of you who have been here and those of you who are here, a few of you that I've never seen before, so welcome. Right, I think you have seen? No, maybe not here. I don't remember. And anyway, so welcome. You, I think, is here for the first time. Is this time? Great, wonderful. So is to say that we have been reading some mostly Kabbalistic texts about the soul and its origin and its purpose and its what it is and where it comes from and where it goes to and what it consists of. The first class. There was kind of an overview about the involvement of how Judaism approaches this topic, not just in Kabbalah, all right, because Kabbalah is not separate from Judaism, nor is it separate from other spiritual traditions of the world that aren't necessarily Jewish. such as in Christianity and Islam, and even in the Far East and others. So, and then we kind of like had a few texts, I think, that spoke about the relationship between but one is was kind of whose soul is it anyways? Is if the soul is divine, is it my soul or is it God's soul? And is it me who has a soul or is it soul that has me? And different things like that. Remember the bor and the be'er, the well and the pit, if you remember. And then there was one text that spoke about reincarnation. And we were exposed to the idea that in Judaism, in Kabbalah, so some Jews who were going down the path of, along the path of Kabbalah, there is this idea that a soul can exist independently of a body, and therefore one option that could be considered that it somehow would be reincarnated, right? We spoke about that a little bit. And today what I want to do is read another text from the Zohar. The way we've been studying it is just bring English translations from the Zohar, which is the central text of Kabbalah, and kind of let those texts inspire us. Today we're going to read another section from the Zohar that discusses this idea that the soul has a few components, more than one component. So there's at least three, according to this, three, maybe four parts to our soul. So the way that the Zohar speaks about the soul mostly is that it consists of three parts: nefesh, ruach, and neshama. And in later stratas of Kabbalah, they start to speak about 5 parts of the soul. So the additional 2 are just nuances of one of them. Okay, that's why. So it's been developed later on, and I think we'll see today a text that is it. So what these texts do is they awaken us to observe if what they're talking about makes sense to our existence. Okay, if what we are reading in this text that is probably about, roughly speaking, maybe 800 years old, but is certainly based upon a more ancient tradition than that, but it was written like the way that we see it now, about 800 years ago. If that echoes with the way that we understand our own existence in this world, if it echoes, if it says, oh yeah, that sounds familiar because it resonates with how I experience myself, maybe a little bit, right? And then maybe it also shows me something about my own self that I didn't think about before. It gives me a language to understand my existence here in this world in a certain way. And it also gives us a language to talk about things that maybe we don't know how to talk about with each other as much, because we don't have that vocabulary in the daily, every day. Or maybe we do. But it's also okay to disagree. It's also okay to say, that was that writer's experience. I experience it a little bit differently or very differently, right? It's not that this is a dogma that everyone has to sign the dotted line, right? It's a text that somebody wrote, inspired by some profound experience that they had, and people have been reading it for many, many generations, and it's been inspirational to them. But it doesn't mean that we have to adhere to it as it is. We can add to it, we can agree, we can disagree, right? So let's see where it moves us. Right, so in Zohar Hadash, Ruth, page 36, the translation of it goes as such, and the original, by the way, is not even in Hebrew. The original was in Aramaic. Okay, so Rabbi Bon opened and said, "My soul longs for you in the night. Indeed, my spirit within me seeks you at dawn." This is a quotation from Isaiah. So quite oftentimes when the Zohar teaches, the book of Zohar teaches, it would start with a verse from scripture, which it will interpret. That is a very common Jewish way to teach things. I don't just start to say something, I will always quote something from the Bible, and I will interpret it. And my interpretation can have nothing to do with the literal sense of what it says, but yet, or so maybe it does, but whether it's very close to the original or literal sense, what is the original sense anyway? Right? Who knows? Who's to say? Or if it's very far-fetched and elaborate, I would still base it on some scripture, because that's the way we go about it. We find some scripture, and then we can use that scripture to kind of say whatever we want, right? But always respectful to the tradition. So the idea is that we are exposing hidden meanings in the text, even though maybe the people who said that text didn't know that they were there, right? So the Hebrew of Isaiah is nafshi iviticha balayla afruchi bekirbi ashachrecha. The two words that are translated here as soul and spirit is nefesh, nafshi, my nefesh, nefesh, and ruach. Nefesh and ruach. And the way that many times, not only Isaiah, but maybe many biblical sources go, is that there's this A and B, and A is kind of like B, but not exactly the same. Na 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 na. Right, and then the second, it's an ancient way of to say things, to write things, of poetry. And Isaiah, right, he said that that in the night my soul so longed for you, and my spirit seeks you at dawn. Seeks who? God, the divine. Right? And you can say, well, they're just repeating, just for poetic beauty that they're saying two different words, like soul and spirit, nefesh and ruach. But the Kabbalists are going to want to say it's not exactly the same thing. There's different parts to what we call the soul. Okay? My soul longs for you, the Holy Blessed One gave. Yeah, so they're going to interpret my soul longs for you. The Holy Blessed One gave two good crowns to the human being to serve with them in this world, and they are nefesh and ruach. Okay, so these two things called nefesh and ruach were given by the Holy Blessed One to human beings as two crowns with which we can serve in the world. So first of all, it's interesting, what is this thing to serve in the world? Right? It's kind of also an approach to what are we doing here? We are serving. Right? Because other people will say, no, I'm here in the world, I'm here to take from the world. Right? I'm here to enjoy the world. I'm here to loiter. I don't know. I'm here for what am I here for? Right? So the approach that this text assumes is that we are here to serve, and that these two crowns are supposed to help us, right, to do that.
Can I ask a question about that word ruach?
Yeah.
Doesn't it mean quiet in Hebrew? Or am I getting it confused?
No.
No, it doesn't?
If anything in Yiddish, maybe, because I don't speak so much Yiddish, but I know a little bit of German, which is very similar. Ruach.
Oh, yeah, that's why.
I think you're, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Never mind.
Ruhigkeit. That means what did you say?
Quiet.
Quiet.
Yeah.
Like calmness, as far as I know.
Doesn't ruach mean spirit?
Ruach. So ruach in colloquial Hebrew, it means wind. So today there's ruach bachus. There's wind outside. Ruach. But ruchani means spiritual. And the ruach can also mean a spirit, like a ghost, right? So ruach means a bunch of things. Okay. Here, these will be distinct words that describe different aspects of our being, of our existence. Okay, and And all right, so the Holy Blessed One gave two good crowns to the human being to serve with them in this world, and they are Nefesh and Ruach. The Nefesh is for the maintenance of the body through the commandments, so that from it the Ruach may be aroused, to arouse the person through Torah and to guide them in this world. I'll read a little further and then maybe we'll explain and open it for a slight discussion. And if they merit it, the Nefesh through commandments and the Ruach through engagement in Torah, then immediately an additional greatness descends upon them from above according to their ways. With these two crowns, the human being walks in the world to serve with them, for the Nefesh does not endure by itself, but only through the arousal of the Ruach that rests upon it. All right, let's try to figure out what this means. What can you make of it? What is Nefesh related to?
Commandments in the
The
Bible.
commandments. And what is Ruach related to? Engagement in Torah. What are the mitzvot, the commandments of the Torah, and how may we understand it? And I want to give what are the commandments and what is the Torah? What's the difference between them? What might that mean? And also, but think also kind of like broadly about what mitzvot, commandments, and Torah might mean. Yeah.
Torah would be stories,
Mm-hmm.
and then, in my mind, and Nefesh, the commandments, things like, Shabbat and all that.
So what are commandments? What are mitzvot? Give me an example from it. Shabbat is a great one. What's another thing? I'll give you what's that? Kashrut, what we eat. Give me another example of a mitzvah, of a commandment. What's that? Put a mezuzah in your house. What else? Yeah. What's that? Tefillin. Shabbat. What else? Put talit. What else? Are there any mitzvot? What's that? Yes. Are there any mitzvot that are? This is what we do. Are there any don'ts?
Well, I was gonna say temple service, all the rules around the temple.
Yeah. Well, yes, correct. That we can't do anymore because we don't have a temple.
Don't kill.
So there's do's and there's don'ts. There's mitzvot aseh, mitzvot lo ta'aseh, right? There are things that we do, and there are things that we don't do. But if I have to give a title to all of those things that you've said, right? So thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not murder, thou shalt, there's do's and don'ts. But if I have to give a simple title to all of those things, what are those things? They're commandments. They are things that we do or don't do, but it's all actions, right? So basically, the category of mitzvot that is nefesh, that is a part of our existence that is being categorized here by mitzvot and by nefesh are our actions in the world. It's the world of asiyah. It's what we do, how we conduct ourselves in the world, right? Whether it's prayer, whether it's what we eat, whether it's our rituals, whether the things that we're supposed to refrain from doing, because doing them would be, harmful to us or to others, right? So the idea, and that is what the nefesh is in charge of. So there's a faculty, part of our existence, which is how we conduct ourselves in the world by action, right? So if I just walk from here to there, right, that would be part of I did something in the world, that would be nefesh, right? So that is the part, that is the crown of action, nefesh. Then the other category is what? Ruach, which is which is equated with, what's that? Engagement in Torah. What is engagement in Torah then? Study, contemplation, the realm of ideas, thought, right? Not what I do in the world, but my intellect, my not my actions, but my thoughts, my processes, my internal processes, my education, and that is ruach, okay? And so there's a distinction here in our existence, there's the faculty of our soul that is in charge of our actions, and there is a faculty of our being, of our soul, of our existence that is in charge of our engagement with Torah, right? Our study, our internal processes, the knowledge that we acquire, right? And I would say that both of these categories should be understood not in the narrow Orthodox Jewish way of, the particular 613 mitzvot and the particular maybe 5 books of Moses and how they are learned in a traditional way, but more in a broad sense of everything that we do, our actions and our, intellectual, what's that? Our thoughts, right? Yeah? So basically what they're saying is that this is a human being has these two things, nefesh and ruach. What is the relationship between the two of them that we see in this text?
They both long and seek for God.
For what?
God.
Okay, so there is a third that we're getting to, right? This is not just at the end of the story. There's another part, right? And there's a relationship, but what can we learn about the relationship between the two of them, even before we go to that? Yeah.
To me, this seems to be saying that you follow the commandments first, and then your spirit will be moved, rather than understanding the commandments and then following them.
Mm-hmm.
Am I getting that right?
Do you all agree? Do you all agree this is what the text says? Yeah?
Is it not right thinking your mind, body, and soul are in alignment? So if you have right thinking, your body will follow that right thinking, and that will exalt your soul to meet God because you are a vessel. Right.
So I like the approach that you, maybe that conversation is good because I think that it's kind of like I think that the model is kind of holistic. I agree with you, and I think that they kind of show that, I'll get to you in a second, that there is something. So the nefesh is kind of more basic because it's the first layer. It's our bodies and the existence in the world, and that you need the nefesh. You can't have just the ruach without the nefesh. But I think that the text says also that you can't have the nefesh without the ruach. They both feed each other, and they're both important, and there's a relationship between them. Right? Did you want to add something?
Yeah, just to kind of about the relationship between them, I was kind of thinking if you kind of relate it to like a human being, of the nefesh kind of being the lungs, where the ruah is more like the brain. Like you kind of need that lung, like the actual doing, the actual breathing, and then that gives life up into your brain to like engage. But yet if you just have the lungs, there's nothing to instruct the lungs how to breathe. But then if you just have the brain, then it can't really.
Right. So yeah, so we understand that these things that right. So this physical aspect of the intellectual or consciousness aspect, because it's not just purely intellectual, right? We can understand that the consciousness has also emotions in it and intuition. It's not just pure like rational thinking, and even there's multiple intelligences, right? But the physical aspect and the deeds and the actions that we do, that's the realm of nefesh, is controlled by nefesh, is nurtured by nefesh, right? And then ruach would be, you said the brain, but I think you didn't mean the physical organ of the brain, but more of the mental kind of consciousness, awareness capacity that it has. And the Kabbalists here are aware that there's these two elements, and together they create who we are, and it's interrelated. You use the word aligned, which I like, aligned together, yeah.
I'm just drawing on that is embodiment, we have a body, right, and then we have intention. And we learn through the Torah how to develop a sense of morality, maybe?
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, so it's not, so basically Torah can teach us how to act in the world, but maybe also, so that you were saying, it's not just Torah teaches us how to act in the world, is by doing in the world, we also, can absorb more Torah, right? Because if you're a person with no experience, right, like no offense, but what, I'm not even going to say it. I was going to say I will say like a college person who has zero experience in the workforce. I don't want to offend anyone who's, yeah, or it's, if you've only learned but you haven't experienced, right? If you only experienced but you haven't learned, right? These things are kind of like so it's more like we're trying, yeah. So there's these two elements. All right. So with these two crowns, the human being walks in the world to serve with them, for the nefesh does not endure by itself, but only through the arousal of the ruach that rests upon it. In other words, you can't just act in the world without the body, without the brain won't work. However, so before you continue, what does it mean if they merit in it? What's to merit? What does that mean? Like in this context, right? The third section. Any ideas?
If they're succeeding in following commandments and contemplating Torah.
Right. So the merit word, right? The merit word suggests that there's some kind of a process that we do in order to learn, right? And how to act and how to study. In other words, there is development in both those realms, right? There is something that we do with those mitzvot, and there's something that we do with this Torah that kind of like perfects us, teaches us how to be in this world, both mentally and physically. Yeah?
Who are
Okay.
they?
What's that?
Who are they? If they merit it, who,
Human beings.
so if we merit it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was a little
Yeah.
confused. Okay.
Right. Human beings. If human beings merit in it, then you will. I would say if they're marinated in it, no. But if they merit in it, then they would. Yeah. So then, something that the text is going to talk about shortly, and you started to speak about it, right? The sensation that we get from the text is that this alone is not the entire picture, right? And maybe in some scientific circles or in some places they would, I don't know, psychology departments or neuro whatever science you call, what is it called? Neuro something. What's the other something? Neuro what? Neuropsychology. Sorry, yeah. Right. So I don't know if maybe they'll say that that's all. That's all we have. We have a body. We have consciousness. And that's it. Well, maybe there isn't a third. Okay, but according to this text and this understanding of our existence, there is a third. Yeah, an additional greatness that can descend upon a human being from above, according to their ways. To whose ways? The human being. According, if the person merits in it, in Torah and mitzvot, right? Then, according to their ways, additional greatness will descend upon that person. All right. So, in other words, just having a body and a consciousness, just having yourself immersed in Torah and mitzvot, is not the end of the story. It's not the main goal. There is something, a third additional greatness that can descend upon a person according to this person's ways. According to this person's ways can suggest that this is not an all or nothing thing, right? As much as you have evolved and developed and achieved some kind of a development or involvement with your Torah and mitzvot, with your nefesh and your ruach, there will be another additional process that will begin to happen to you. When a person enters, I'm continuing to read. I'll scroll the. I'll try to scroll the Zoom as well. When a person enters to serve and worship their Creator with these two, an arousal of holiness is awakened upon them from above. And it rests upon the person and surrounds them on every side. So you see they are marinated in something. Then they are awakened in supernal wisdom, so that they may merit to be in the palace of the king. That arousal which rests upon them comes from a higher place. And what is its name? Neshama. So that would be the third one. All right, so it's not just nefesh and ruach, actions and consciousness, or intellect or mental capacity. There's a third that is called neshama. The neshama is a higher power than that which is called ruach. For the Holy Blessed One gave the ruach to serve in this world, but the neshama to be constantly aroused towards service of what is above. From it are awakened in a person repentance and good deeds, for it is the supernal power, the power of teshuvah. It is the ruach's mother, and the ruach is its child. Okay, what can we understand about this? What do you make of this?
Well, can we back up just a touch? I'm not understanding if everybody has a neshama then. Are they
Yeah.
saying if, you know, so it sounds like every living being or every living human being has the ruach and
And the nefesh.
the nefesh, but you only get a neshama if you've merited it?
Yeah, so the way that I would like to suggest to interpret that is that everyone has the potential, everyone has a neshama. That higher place is not external to us either. Okay, it's not, the whole thing is within a human being. The higher place from which it comes is also something that we have, but not necessarily everyone reaches the potential to the same degree of being connected to that one, right? And even the same person may be in different times throughout their lives, right? They can be in and out of that state, right? So the kind of like this neshama, which we can talk more about what it is, right? Is something that is not that it's acquired from somewhere else, right? But maybe I would say that there could be like a blockage or a reason for it not to be present in this person's life, so that the person can, you know, as they evolve with their nefesh and ruach, as they journey through the world, they will be awakened and aroused. Think about this word arousal, right? The potential is there. If you're aroused, then there's a whole reality that opens, right? For the neshama to be all around that person. Yeah.
Doesn't this open up the prospect that aspects of the soul, where they're not always present at the same time in a human body. Let's say as a human is dying, the ruach could leave. It generally does, and the nefesh still remains.
Or someone, or maybe, or in some cases, maybe the other way around, because maybe some, so, you know, so just like I said, people ask me, I just came back from Israel, and one of the things that I did is that I went to visit my grandfather in Jerusalem, who was almost 100 years old. And unfortunately, not all his mental capacities are sharp as they used to be, although only just recently he lost some of it. So he told me, and he's very aware that this is a situation. So he told me, I can't remember further than my own nose. Like anything beyond my nose, I can't remember. So I told him, aha, Saba, Grandpa, but I see that you still have your sense of humor. And he said, yes. And I said, well, this is how you are signaling to us through your sense of humor that you are still there, right? And that's why I'm referring to what you're saying. That sometimes when we see people who have lost some of their faculties, right? We can say, oh, there's less of the nefesh, or let's say they are not unable to move and act in the world as much, or even that their mental capacities of, are in withdrawal or whatever. But there's something deeper of that it's still very much there, right? So yes, so it can be that, and you see that with babies, and you see it with much older people who, or sometimes in between as well.
Someone has no mental capacities, but an aspect of the soul is still there.
Yeah. Yes. All right. So let's try to think more about what is this neshama. Yes.
Is it not just wisdom?
But what? Yes. But what kind of wisdom?
Spiritual wisdom.
Yes, and I think that this is something that's worth staying for a while. And this is because when they say that this neshama is supernal wisdom, right? When they say it's from the, when you're in it, you're married in the palace of the king, that it's from a higher place, right? It's a distinction because it's not necessarily wisdom in the way that we think about it, like when you say this person knows a lot of stuff, right? It's not wisdom about anything of this world almost. Only that there's also no other world, right? But it's wisdom of a very, you could call it spiritual wisdom. I agree with you. It's wisdom of it's knowledge of the divine.
In touch with that.
Yes.
So my thought process, right thought, right action, helps you exalt your soul so that certain things become beneath you. So you won't indulge in gluttony, you won't indulge in theft, you won't indulge in, any of these lower things. So you exalt yourself higher and higher. And that's where I think where they say the higher place of the palace, you become, you merit to be in the palace of the king, because certain things are just beneath you.
Yeah.
And you won't put yourself in those situations.
So what's your name?
Damon.
Damon, nice to meet you, Damon. I think I like what you're saying. I only want to comment that traditionally how the Kabbalah likes to express itself is that yes, and not as linear, and more holistic in the sense that because the danger is if we talk in the language, I think a little bit of beneath, is that we kind of like we create kind of like hierarchies between human beings, or we can also fall into like a little bit of like the shadows of our own egos, or and I think that these texts, if you look at it, they will not say that nefesh and ruach are low or bad or inferior. It's more of a holistic understanding that we need all of that in order to also awaken and arouse the soul. And but you're very right, that and you'll see it if we get to further in the text that each one of those, they do have two aspects, good and bad, right? And I'm saying what you're saying. I think what you're saying is true. I'm just saying that I think that what I'm learning from these texts is that what we do in the world and this realm of nefesh, where we're active in the world, is necessary. So is ruach, right? In order for these two, and they're called crowns. And then if we, as we evolve in the world and develop in these two crowns, we also open to the spiritual, right? But it's not like then we leave them behind. We remain in this world. We remain in nefesh and ruach, and the Shema is added.
Now let me ask.
Mm-hmm.
If my cousin invites me to dinner, but he steals the dinner, do I go to dinner with him, knowing that he stole this thing? Do I partake and have that with him? What part of this would be, where do I begin? Because I don't want to chastise him necessarily because he might have to steal because that's the only way he was going to get it.
Mm-hmm.
But where does my rightness, or how do I interact with the world in that scenario?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and because what you're sharing with us is that it's never just a journey of the individual. Right. And indeed there is, and there is a great, when we talk about all the spirituality talk, and a lot of it is my individual, my soul's journey, my deeds, my karma, even if I may borrow from like a word from Sanskrit, right? But what you're sharing with us, and that is also, I think, deeply rooted in Jewish tradition, that no person is an island. Right? There's a lot of it that's relational. And there's the famous verse in Leviticus 19, love your neighbor as much as you love yourself. But re'acha in Hebrew also means my evil part, my evil side, my shadows. Mm-hmm. So it's not just, yeah, so we influence one another in these journeys. There is also, I don't know if we read that text or not, I'll get to you in a second, is that you see in the end, one of the ways to understand the tree of life is that all souls, and maybe that's a text that we're yet to read in one of the next classes or next semester or whenever, is that all souls of all human beings used to be with Adam and Eve. And then if you think about the tree, right, that there's a tree and then there's branches, and then the branches have smaller branches, and then the branches have leaves, and the leaves have, those veins. In other words, all of humanity, and perhaps not just humanity, needs to evolve and the journey. So in other words, it's not just about the individual journey, it's about the entire of humanity, maybe this entire planet. So it's all interconnected. Yeah.
So looking at this, it makes me think about where the nefesh and ruach are like my part, and then it refers to neshama as a higher power. I think of when I think of my own intuition or my own consciousness or even my conscience, which a lot of times is born of my experience and guilt or shame. Mm-hmm. Whereas the neshama is kind of that other voice, maybe from God, maybe from something else that says like, is there something wrong here? Are you safe? Or maybe even it could be a biological intuition that seems to be coming from outside of you. Mm-hmm. I think there are forms of religion or spirituality that would say you only have to listen to the neshama, and that's how you reach your enlightenment. Mm-hmm. And then there's this Kabbalah, which is, I think I like the way that it's integrated, and you can't
it shows you a way to live with your integrity because external and internal at the same time. And so if you were to make a choice, a moral choice, it seems to me like it's interesting that I would have to I would have to consider all these factors to make a moral choice. I can listen to the voice inside my head and listen to whatever that little voice is outside of my head.
Right, I think one of the things that happens, at least to me when I read these texts, is that the boundaries of the self, of the individual, they get a little bit, they fade a little bit, whether it's because I understand that I'm actually not disconnected from other human beings with whom I share this journey, and we all influence one another, right? I can't really just be, there will always be the interaction with others and we influence each other, right? Also me and the divine, or me and the world, right? That like where do I, again, whose soul is this anyways, right? This neshama part that comes from the king, is that king external to me? Is it internal to me? Is it me? Is it not me? Remember when we did the meditation with the candles, and we saw that each candle has a flame, but then there's the halo. And you can't really, so where does the candle actually end? And where does the I actually end? Right? So this is just saying that where is the palace of the king? Where is the palace of the king?
Doesn't really matter. It seems to be a place that we want to be, wherever it is. And I have some problems with that because I'm reading it as if you do good and live the right life, you'll be rewarded, as opposed to do the right thing because it's right.
Yeah.
And they're holding out a treat for us if we do the right thing. I have some problems with that.
Well, what makes us think though that the palace of the king is a reward? Is there another way to interpret that?
It sounds like
a reward. Yeah.
So I'd like to share my viewpoint from an agnostic standpoint, because it's kind of how I think about things. What this kind of feels like to me is that by being aware of the actions you make and striving to learn and grow about others as well as yourself, you can become closer to yourself as well as others. And from what I have been described about Judaism, kind of the collective people is a part of God, and that would be becoming closer to God through your actions and your thoughts, which would be that neshama. And though for me, from an agnostic standpoint, then the palace of the king would be the earth. Yeah. It would be the people around you.
Yeah, this is good. Let's hear more. Let's hear more people. Yeah, yes, and yes.
I mean, it's one of our mitzvot to do not to be here for ourselves, to give to other people, to make the world a better place. So I would think there was some connection with that in some way. It's not about us reaching a certain thing for ourselves, but as far as the earth around us.
Yeah, there's basically two main categories of mitzvot. Is the ones between a person and God, and the one between a person and another human being, right? So a lot of the mitzvot, this connects us to what you said, many of the mitzvot, many of the actions have to do with our relationships with others, right? So it's really not just about ourselves and our own journey, it's how we coexist in this world, right? And and then, so again, where is the palace of the king? Yeah.
It would just refer to when you were at the state of spiritual understanding that you are able to serve. Palace of the king of being at that state where you're spiritually starting to serve.
Yes. So I'll get back to you in a second, but I want to say that so the understanding is that the palace of the king is not some reward that I get to after I die. And the palace of the king is not somewhere in heaven, right? But just like we said, the world to come in Kabbalah, ha'olam haba, ha'olam shekvar ba, the world that's already come, if you have the eyes to see it and the heart to feel it. Okay, so I think you could be agnostic and study Kabbalah, because really the divine is not external to you necessarily. And it's not like the grandpa in the sky. That we don't, it's more about realizing that, so the palace of the king, every place and every moment can be the palace of the king. If we are open to the option that we can have a relationship with that king. And for those of you who get angry why we're saying king and not queen, don't worry, soon the text is going to have masculine and feminine metaphors. All right, so just a moment, right? So the supernal wisdom has nothing to do with knowledge of this world in the sense of I know math, I know physics, I know something technical, I know Shakespeare, I know whatever, right? I know a science, I know a profession, right? The supernal wisdom is the arousal of to the option, the awakening to the option that what a person does here in the realms of nefesh and ruach that are more tangible to us are to serve the divine, is to be in relationship with that. And that wisdom that is developed is the ability to walk upon this earth in this life with that experience, open to that experience, that it's not just the nefesh and the ruach, in the sense that what exists is not just our actions and our mental capacity, but also that there is the option to live in this life in the palace of the king. That this life, this existence becomes the palace of the king when that dimension opens to us. Okay, and in this sense, I'd say it's not necessarily a reward like an external reward. It's more of a transformation, right? It's like it's an understanding that this whole thing exists, and that in fact the other two are serving that relationship in a sense. Okay, yeah.
I have trouble with the word king.
What's that?
I have a trouble with the word king.
Mm-hmm.
And not just because there's
no kings,
but,
yeah.
That's the other part,
Yeah.
right? Queen and king, but just that it's an image of a person.
Yeah.
That's what I have trouble with, rather than just some whatever reason we're here.
Yeah. So I think it will be yes, and it'll be interesting to see how, as the text evolves. And I know, and I'll get to you. Think about the metaphor of a king in a palace in terms of a space in which a king dwells. I think that's where this metaphor belongs, right? Rather than because soon they're going to talk about mother and child and father and mother. In other words, there's more how to describe that divine. Right, one way to think about it is as a monarch, as a king, but I think here mostly is to make this life a palace in which the king dwells, is kind of like what they mean. So it's not it's like a specific metaphor. Yeah.
To her, the palace of the king, from my understanding, is the female aspect of God, the bridegroom. That's where we can only see because of our limited thing. We can only see her as a place, but even that is wrong because we can't see the other aspects of her. So when you say the palace of God, what he is, I mean, in my limited understanding, I'm thinking that they're talking about the female aspect of God. That's why you merit the place, because when you look in the Bible, it says, for those who keep, the Passover and the Holy and all that, they will be bridegrooms and they will get the passage of eternal life and be with the bridegroom of God.
So that's interesting. We're gonna get in the as we read forward further, we're gonna see more of those kind of like gendered descriptions. And if to someone here is like, what is female and male aspects of God? Something about that. There's a saying in the Mishnah, in the Talmud, not even Kabbalah, just kind of more mainstream Judaism. One of the names of God is Makom. which means place. And sometimes you want to say hamakom, the place, the place, the place, hamakom. And one of the saying is shehu mekomo shel olam ve'ein ha'olam mekomo, that the divine God is the place of the world, but the world isn't its place. Palace, in other words, that we know that God is not a tangible thing, the divine is not a tangible thing that we can see in the world, that we understand that the world is its palace, in a sense, it's a place, right? And one way to understand male and female metaphors here is that one dwells inside the other. And maybe what you see is a more external one. But the one that you can't see is within. Okay, yes, so the suggestion here is that we are consisted of nefesh and ruach of neshama, that human existence in this world, right? When we talk about the soul is like a generic name, but if we look closer, we realize that there's these three things, and they have I would say, a holy conversation with them. You can't have just consciousness without a body, right? Yet you also have the third element, that is the neshama, and that is basically, that intelligence is gearing our existence to be in constant conversation with that mysterious divine, okay? And saying that this world and our experience is to be perceived as a palace, a makom, a dwelling place, by which this divine, which you can call king or silence or whatever you want, spirit, right, dwells. What is then this word teshuvah? What is teshuvah in this sense? What is the day of the year when we make teshuvah? Well, every day, right? But right, is teshuvah. What is the process then of teshuvah? What is the literal meaning of teshuvah? Do you know?
To return.
Returning. Right. So basically, that the soul returns to this awakening of its divine source. Right. That is the process that is happening. Is it something that is like you did it once and then that's it?
We'll do it every year, please.
So it's basically it's more than I'd say that it's more like the process maybe is even more important than the result, than the goal, right? It's something that we constantly need to practice doing. It's like if I've reached enlightenment yesterday, I don't have to do my yoga stretches today. No, it's not like that, right? It's a constant process by which we're awakened to that potential. Yeah. Okay. Any more thoughts or questions? Yeah.
Well, this whole thing also feels very circular, right? So you are reaching to the Shema in a sense, and that spiritual wisdom, and that's connecting you to the divine. But then that connects you back with the nefesh, really, the doing good deeds, but also recognition and repentance that there's also the things that won't go so well, and recognizing that and continuing to go into kind of a positive cycle.
Thank you. I like what you're saying, and I agree with you that these models often are portrayed as linear or hierarchical, like nefesh is here, ruach is here, neshama is here. But then why are we born into this world, right? We have a body, we have actions, we have a mental capacity or a consciousness capacity. We have a neshama, this divine wanted to come to this world and be born. We saw it in some other text. It's here to evolve, it's here to grow. Right, so it's all the time kind of like a dynamic between the three. Yeah.
I guess that kind of wraps it all the way back to our original line from Isaiah.
Mhm.
You know, our soul longs for you in the night, and our spirit seeks you at dawn, and then after dawn, it's gonna be night again. And then after night, it's gonna come back up.
Right, there's something cyclical about that, right? Yeah.
I wanna, continue from that night dark, because this first sentence is what struck me. My soul longs for you in the night. I'm gonna start bringing up concept of light. As creators giving light. And what longs for you in the night, to me, I'm interpreting as darkness. And the soul is realizing that there's darkness, and when there's darkness, you can long for the light. And this next sentence, my spirit within me seeks you at dawn. We're talking about spirit here, where there's an inkling of light. Where we've gotten a little bit close, we recognize there's darkness. We want to bestow goodness, enlightenment, and then it helps us reach a different level. And talking hierarchical, but an expanded place where we can start to receive more light when we're giving. So that the concept of darkness and light is coming out in this first sentence in a little different way than was expressed here, not periodicity, but like a filtering.
Yeah.
So, for what?
Right, and so thank you both for connecting to like what is called the pshat, the literal meaning of Isaiah, because the night and darkness metaphor are important here. I agree. I think it's both the cyclical thing. The word shachar, by the way, the word shachar in Hebrew has not a double but a triple meaning that is all relevant here, because shachar means dawn, but shachol means dark, black.
Means what?
Right? Shachol and shachar. So basically, it's this word in itself here holds both light and darkness. And ashacharecha is what I desire for. The shacher is to desire for something. So that's all these three meanings: light, darkness, and yearning is all in one word. And that's kind of like the beauty of Hebrew, that it has multiple and sometimes triple and quadruple meanings all in one word. So to a degree, it's hard to learn Kabbalah if you don't speak Hebrew, which is why there's Hebrew classes here, right? But also there's translations. Also interesting to think about where is it. So it's, in other words, this world, and it has light in it, to which you see the soul could be attributed as darkness, because it's kind of like, it's not what we can perceive with our senses or with our mental capacities, right? So each one of them it's just a negative of one another. Kind of see what I mean? So there could be that the soul is the dark one and this world is a light, is an illumination, or vice versa. Of course, in the end, the divine is perceived as light. However, a lot of the work of the Kabbalists is done in the shadows, right? Because we can talk all we want about being enlightened and being closer to the divine and living in God's palace, right? In the end, and it's also partly according to these teachings why the soul came here, is that we go to the shadows when we agree to evolve and grow. And in a very mysterious way, it seems like the divine needs that. In other words, the divine needs us as ambassadors, as its ambassadors in the shadows, right? So you can find light where you think that light isn't. Yeah. So, all right. Okay, let's continue with the text a little bit. So it says that the first so it says so the ruach is its mother, and so the neshama is the mother of the ruach, and the ruach is its child. All of a sudden, and maybe now we're liberated from the kings. Now it becomes also, remember that all those people, they lived in a world where everyone had a king somewhere, right?
It's
But-
not the idea of a person.
A person, yeah,
Yeah.
that bothers you. Because it thinks of the divine as a person. Yeah, you should know that both in the Bible and in Kabbalah, often the divine is perceived as having a body or an image. We were created in God's image. And we've been taught that the divine doesn't have that, but maybe, again, how do we connect to something that we can't understand? So sometimes it'd be depicted as something that has an image, but not really, not exactly. It's just a metaphor. Okay. So now they're going to teach us that there's actually a fourth. We thought the soul was one thing, then we realized no, there's a body, nefesh and ruach. There's the realm of actions where we do things or refrain from doing something. There's the world of contemplation and consciousness where we can learn about things. Then we learn that there's a third, the realm where neshama, where we there's an arousal and awakening of the supernal wisdom that yearns for the divine. And now it says, and over the neshama, and I actually think that it would serve us good to say, yeah, so, okay. And over the neshama, there is a supernal lover. And what is its name? Neshama of the neshama. That's why afterwards they had to invent more names. That's why they came from 3 parts to 5 parts in later Kabbalah. This one is called father to the Ruach. So the neshama is the mother. Remember, we just read, the neshama is the mother, the Ruach is the child. Now we understand that there's a whole family there. Right? There's the father. From it is awakened in a person, yirah. And these are father and mother, son and daughter, yod, father, hey, mother, vav, son, hey, daughter. This is the full name, Yahweh. What is this? What are they? First of all, is everyone aware of that name?
How to pronounce it?
Well, it's a good question. So you don't really, not because, so the true name of God, as I've mentioned here a couple of times, in another text from the Zohar, it says the reason why nobody knows what the high priest, how it would sound, and the high priest would utter that name, like in the Yom Kippur, is because the truest essence of the name of God is actually silence. It's actually silence. You can't pronounce it because it's silence. It's not a word. All right. Now the verb yud hey vav hey in Hebrew is basically to be, just being. Lihiyot is to be. Yehaveh is just whatever is becoming. Okay. When Moses went to
I am that I am.
I am that I am. Right? When Moses went to the burning bush and he heard, or whatever, saw or felt, and he heard a voice that says, Eheyeh asher eheyeh, I am what I am, or I will become what I'll become. If you want to say it in one word, in Hebrew, it's Yehaveh, whatever is Yehaveh, whatever is becoming. Right? So again, whatever is becoming does not have a shape, cannot be defined, cannot be described in any way. Right? So I had an encounter with a Lutheran pastor on Monday. So she asked me, how do we do interfaith? And because she said, it seemed like you do a lot of interfaith work in Israel. Like, how do you do it? Do you have a book to recommend? I said, I don't know any books, but I can tell you what I've learned is that I try to listen deeper than the words. Because if I do interfaith work with other faith leaders, and I'm going to end up they're gonna say something that I don't believe in, and I'm gonna say something that they don't believe. Right, like, so she being a Christian, so, I told her, if you tell me I believe in Jesus, I probably will tell you, well, I don't, so we have a disagreement, which is fine. Right, but if I ask you, what does believing in Jesus mean to you? You might say things like love, compassion, forgiveness, awakening, a lot of those things I could say, oh, that's fine, so in other words, if we get stuck in the level of words, there might be a lot of disagreement. If you listen deeper than those words, not always, but you might find, right? So Yehavet, so God is not, again, speaking of agnostics, God is not a grandpa in the sky, right? Here is suggested that whatever, and then about how it was pronounced. So the Kabbalists actually did pronounce it, but they had different vowels, like different Yehovah, Yehiva, depending on different intention that they would make in different prayers. There's no way to pronounce it. There's more way to pronounce it. Why? Because essentially the divine is undefinable, and that word, the name of God, Yud Hey Vav Hey, it means exactly this. Whatever is, every moment of life is divine revelation. And actually, the words that we put to it do not describe it. And the images that we have fall short. It doesn't mean that we will not use those images or these words to describe it, but we understand that it's very partial and incomplete. So it's so basically believing in God in according to this understanding of Judaism and Kabbalah is basically very Zen-like. In the sense that whatever is becoming, whatever appears as life, and with this understanding that this is a palace of the divine, if we have this consciousness, here we are, right? However, they give us now kind of like I'll get to you in a second. They say each word here means something else. Each word is kind of like a level of the story. Right? There's the father, the mother, the son, and the daughter. Each one, so Yud would be the father, Hey would be the mother, Vav would be the son, and Hey would be the daughter. Let's try to see if we can understand how all those stand in accordance with the Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, and Neshama of Neshama, as we're understanding it now. Yeah.
If you take the Vav as like the W sound before, instead of the V sound, I noticed that all the letters, they're not like consonant, they're kind of reliant on their vowels. You don't actually touch your lips.
Yeah,
it's all sort of breath.
Yeah. And something that we learned last year, and there could be like a whole mini series maybe next year about, come back to, there's countless teachings about the tetragram, obviously. One of them that it is breath, because the Vav is, this is kind of segueing away, but just, so Vav would be the person. You mentioned the lungs before. Vav could be also the channel of our breath, or the central pillar of a human being, from which air goes in and out, and the two hays would be inhale and exhale. Right, so every moment this person inhales and exhales, and the Yud would be the point of consciousness. Right, that if I meditate upon my breath, there will always be an inhale, an exhale, that who breathes, and the consciousness that follows that meditation. Right, so whatever is becoming. Right. So again, God is not external to us. God is not a grandpa in the sky, and also or a grandma in the sky, or anyone in the sky. Right. It's a model of consciousness and becoming and being aware of the moment that appears ahead of us, in front of us, in this sense, it can be not only agnostic, but even atheists can read this text and agree with it. In the sense that it's not transcendental knowledge, it's existential knowledge, if you follow what I'm saying. So what are the Yud Hey Vav Hey here?
It's life.
What's that?
Life.
It's life, but how does that relate to Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama? Who's the mother? What's that?
I said Bina.
Yeah, but then let's not confuse ourselves with the Sefirot, right? Who's the daughter? Who's the son?
Ruach is one of the children.
Right. So in a bit of a convoluted, we can assume maybe that the nefesh and the ruach are the children, right? And the mother and the father are the parents would be the neshama and the neshama and the neshama. In other words, the higher self, the divine self, gives birth to the children who are the faculties that are more active in the world. Yeah. Actions, the thoughts. Why would and also I'm conscious that it's 8:30 and we should. Why would they bring this relationship between the different levels and faculties of the soul as this metaphor of parental? Why is it important for them to say that the neshama and the neshama are like the parents of the nefesh of the ruach? Yeah.
Just like from the time period it came from, that was something that most people would understand, like having relationships with your parents and with siblings and children, like that was just something that they understood. It's a way of like explaining all these things interact with each other, and you know how your parents kind of give you this wisdom and this knowledge, and you're the one that's thinking and acting. It's like this.
Okay,
That's
so it's something that people can relate to.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Guidance.
Yes, maybe guidance. What else?
I think to build off of that, and to go back to what someone was talking about earlier, it's also cyclical, where eventually those children could and will have children of their own and become the mothers and fathers that impart that wisdom onto others, and that cycle keeps going.
Okay. Yes.
From generation to generation.
Mm-hmm. So.
Just, the teaching.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So there's continuity. There's a cyclical element here. What else? Yeah.
It's family, mother, father, daughter,
son. Mm-hmm.
All
All right, but this family here is basically, it comes to describe the relationship between the different faculties of this existential map or diagram that they're giving us, right? Why is it important that the higher spiritual divine faculties are the parents of our actions and thoughts in this world? Yeah?
Well, I'm seeing in this the interrelationship between giving and receiving.
Mm-hmm.
So generally, the female would be receiving and the male giving. And when you give it to, let's take the mother, for instance, the mother can be receiving and also giving to the children below. There's that interrelationship. Everybody has an element of giving and receiving, but that's how currently, because ideas always change, but that's how I'm currently taking the father-mother concept into giving, or male-female into giving.
Mm-hmm. And a mother can be receiving something from the father, but giving something to the child.
Yes, that's where
right?
It comes in. But,
right? That's also, yeah.
There's also a commandment that says to honor your father and mother.
Mm-hmm.
So there could also be that level of.
Right. Right. So if I want my nefesh and ruach to serve and honor my parents, right? So the Kabbalistic interpretation would be, not only do I honor my real parents in the world, I honor the divine faculties of my own soul. Right? It's an internal thing, right? And also the other way around, unlike, kings and queens, maybe they're benevolent, I don't know, but parents would nurture and love and protect, and sometimes maybe punish and chastise, but it's a close, intimate relationship. Right, so this metaphor of, there's a prayer in Yom Kippur that we say we want God to not only be our king or queen, but also be our mother and father. That the relationship would be one of family and not of a monarch. Yeah? Mm-hmm.
I've seen Jews put these little letters at the top of a page that you're writing.
Mm-hmm.
And they put, is it the Yud Hey Vav Hey that they're putting?
No, they're putting Be'ezrat Hashem, which means with God's help.
Oh, okay.
Or Bet Samech Dal, which means the same in Aramaic, with Siyata Nishmat. Yeah?
So I'm having trouble with mother, father, because I think of it as more teaching. And mother and fathers are not always good. They're sometimes abusive.
Yes.
Which is against our premise of
Yeah.
dealing with abuse.
Yeah, so we don't really have time to get into this, but I will say that also if you take this home and read the last paragraph, there's also an understanding that good and evil exist here, and that evil does exist. Yes, and there's a whole other talk that we can have, or study that we can have some other time, about the roots of evil that exists in everyone, including ourselves and including our parents, and including possibly also in the divine itself. And the work, and again, our ways to grow and evolve is also in the realm of the shadows. Knowing daring to go and to walk in our shadows, embracing that they exist in ourselves and in others, accepting them in ourselves and in others is part of the work of healing. And again, the Kabbalist doesn't only walk in the realm of lights, of divine lights and wonderful rainbows and right. A Kabbalist dares to go in the shadows because that's where the real transformation can occur.
And so I've always had trouble with the honor of the mother and father.
No.
Thy mother and father. I always had trouble with it. I think this is.
Well, that's also depends on. It's like we need to also conclude because it's 8:30 and the snowstorm is coming. But to say that we can have a conversation of what it means to honor. Honor doesn't mean that I put them on a pedestal and say that they're perfect or that they're people who can't go wrong. But honor my parents, and even though I understand that they're limited, right? I still honor them, even though they're not. Even though the image that I have of these perfect people who will never wrong me and will do everything to help me and will only love me, and then I realize that my parents are selfish, have issues, are human, or I myself am a parent, and I'm realizing that I'm a pretty lousy parent in some respects, right? Limited by my own, right? So yet I honor them, right? There's different ways to understand that commandment, but again, this is a whole other lecture. All right, so we will end, not because we don't, I'm glad that people, it's 8:35 and people are still want to say something, it's a good sign. God willing, we will meet next week with yet another different text about the soul, and we'll try to evolve with it. Take care. Sure.